You're listening to the Choice FM, where it doesn't matter where you come from, but where we can go together. The show will start in a moment. Hello, and welcome to the Choice FM podcast for January 8th, 2018. I'm FD Gifford, and I will be your host for the next 15 or so minutes. Now, if you are new, I hope this show will soon become a favorite. And if you get value from our regular broadcast, please hit the subscribe button so you will be notified of our next episode release. As you may or may not know, the Choice FM is my primary broadcast vehicle and is hoped to be only just one part of the YWNH Media Company. Those of you who are new to the community, this show is intended to be distributed at least once a week. More than likely, it'll be more often. And I plan to cover the important topics of our time and how they impact our daily life and lifestyle from a health and wellness perspective. The Choice FM content is a combination of reporting news and information as found and determined by the show's editors, along with their review and commentary. I invite you to join me each week, an episode, share the broadcast with your friends and family, post comments, and maybe someday join us on air as either a caller or a guest. Now let's kick off the show. Today I want to share with you my thoughts on the topic of self-service. This all started with a story by Samantha Raffleson titled "Oregonians Aren't Pumped About New Law Allowing Self-Service Gas Stations," which was found on NPR. The story opens with, many Oregonians were outraged this week when a new law took effect allowing motorists in rural counties to pump their own gas, representing a shift in the state's decade-long history of requiring an attendant to pump gas for drivers. You see that, quote, gas stations in counties with a population of less than 40,000 are permitted to offer self-service. While the change in the law is expected to affect a small number of people, Oregonians took to social media to express their discontent and were subsequently mocked by residents in the other 48 states that allow self-service. New Jersey is the only other state that prohibits drivers from pumping their own gas, end quote. The author goes on to make the case where rural communities with a low number of drivers, especially at night, will be better served by self-service gas stations. One has to wonder if the author has ever lived in a small-town rural community based on this article. But sure, it will be less expensive for a busy gas station to have one attendant working the pump machines while multiple customers pump the gas. But in a small town, low-volume gas stations that are open may easily be able to service their customers as they see best without a new law mandating any specific type of service. The fact is, Oregon has already interfered with the gas station service model. Quote, since 1951, Oregon law has required all gas stations to have attendants, but for the past 2 years, the stations in certain rural counties have been permitted to offer self-service gas stations from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. The article continues with a number of stories about individuals who claim they don't know how to pump gas or just don't like to do it for some reason or another. It is reported, the reporter did report that as she filmed in some video to help her fellow Oregonians learn how to pump gas, as if they wouldn't know how. In keeping with today's sarcastic social media style, some of the individuals posting responses implied that they were just joking. But in total, this story highlights several critically important issues all communities are facing. Is the answer to every issue as simple as a new rule? When is replacing a human service agent better than a machine? Who profits from the imposed changes? And given this example, who does this change serve? The owners, the attendants, the consumer, the regulators? Self-service, when maintained, could be looked as selfish, since it will eliminate the gas station attendant's job. Is the government just imposing a rule to service themselves by serving the gas station owner's bottom line? Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments below. Now, along the same lines, there was an additional story that I recently listened to a podcast over the New Year's holiday that triggered an inspirational thought I wanted to share with those of you who follow and listen to my media broadcasts. Now, the podcast I was listening to was a geopolitical show, and the host and guest were discussing the significance of the transitional times we are living in, specifically here in the U.S., and how we as Americans need to not just expect our leaders to, quote, fix everything. We need to once again take an active role in service to our country. Now, the show's guests was not saying that we need to all enlist in the Army or run for public office or even volunteer in our community as some form of social warrior, end quote. He was suggesting that American greatness was founded on the individual who understood and worked together in community to achieve great things. Not just for profit or fame, but in service to self, family, and community. When we become too passive and expect others to do the work we could, or we must do for ourselves, we are abdicating our responsibility. Sometimes we humans accept changes to technology because it serves our needs, but sometimes it also hurts too. It is all in where you stand on that particular issue. What's the old saying? It all depends on your lot in life, or something like that. The show's guests gave an example. Instead of looking to government or its partner, large corporations, to win the war on drugs or cancer or diabetes or heart disease, etc., we as a nation of doers, not followers, must take an active role, end quote, to preventing these events and actually epidemics in our lifetime. This definitely hit a chord with me. As I see it, we are not saying that drug addicts or cancer patients should not be helped by our collective efforts. Of course not. What would we say if we needed to be actively at work on the prevention of these events in our own personal lives? Life is not some health lottery where a few win and the rest lose. Your health comes in most cases from living a disciplined lifestyle, learned through education and practiced by individuals, families, and societies. So come on, people, wake up to the reality that unhealthy diets lead to unhealthy conditions or illnesses. Now, everyone benefits under this self-service model, unlike the gas station story. Sure, it seems easier for some people compared to others. As humans, we should all understand that our DNA is passed from generation to generation. But that's only 50% of the story. And speaking of story, maybe this will help you understand the challenge we are facing in the U.S. The link comes from a betterlifecoachingblog.com, and the story is this. A kid walks into a candy store with his dad and was bedazzled by an array of treats on offer. What should I choose? What should I choose? What should I choose? He asked himself. Come on, son. We don't have all day, his dad said. These are my favorites. No, these are my favorites. He walked along the aisles, picking up bags and putting them back. He just couldn't make up his mind. Quick, son, make up your mind. We have to go, his impatient father said. Frantically, the boy ran around the store, his eyes moving from one shelf to another, but all of the options looked so good and he couldn't make a decision. Eventually, the dad had enough, grabbed his son by the hand, and walked him out the store empty-handed. The young boy had tears in his eyes. He wanted them all, but ended up with nothing, because he couldn't choose just one. We're all that boy. The world is that candy store, end quote. So many bad choices facing us every day. We should consider ourselves fortunate to have any choice in the first place. But most don't even understand the full implications of this choice. Going a bit Old Testament, let's see if your lot in life is just an unlucky event or an opportunity missed. Quote, "Since choices often result in eternally significant consequences, we must choose in line with God's principles." End quote. As the story goes, the herdsmen of Lot and Abraham were quarreling because there wasn't adequate land to support all their flocks. So Abraham gave Lot his choice of where to settle. Lot surveyed the land and decided to move down into the lush Jordan Valley. That choice was the beginning of Lot's gradual but steady spiritual decline. Offspring of those disgraceful nights were the Moabites and the Ammonites, both Israel's perennial enemies. It all began with Lot's choice to live near Sodom. First, both Lot and Abraham had increased wealth. But as the story goes on, the first mention of wealth is in the Bible, in Genesis 13. Wealth can be a blessing, but we need to recognize something that isn't said very often in our own prosperous culture. Wealth is a dangerous blessing. Increased wealth always results in increased potential, either for evil or good. To whom much is given, much shall be required. Luke 12:48. When your income increases, so does your accountability to God. This can be found at Bible.org, and the link is in the show notes. Choosing a healthy lifestyle requires the individual to make the choice of healthy eating over unhealthy eating. First, let's define healthy eating. Per the wiki, healthy eating is simple, according to Marion Nestle, who expresses the mainstream view among scientists who study nutrition. The basic principles of good diet are so simple that I can summarize them in just 10 words. Eat less, move more, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, end quote. They also cite the definition from a leading Yale doctor who is the head of their nutrition department. Dr. Katz, who reviewed the most prevalent popular diets in 2014, noted, quote, "The weight of evidence strongly supports a theme of healthful eating while allowing for variation on that theme. A diet of minimally processed food, close to nature, predominantly plants, is definitely associated with health promotion and disease prevention and is consistent with the salient components of seemingly distinct dietary approaches. Efforts to improve public health through diet are forestalled, not for want of knowledge about the optimal feeding of Homo sapiens, but for distractions associated with exaggerated claims and our failure to convert what we reliably know into what we routinely do. Knowledge in this case is not, as of yet, power. Would that it were so." End quote. Now, healthy eating is only part of a healthy lifestyle. And, to quote the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, quote, "Healthy lifestyle choices can prevent or control many of the nation's leading causes of death. Nearly 40% of deaths in America are linked to smoking, physical inactivity, poor diet, or alcohol abuse. Are you one of the many people who continue to make some of these or other unhealthy life choices? After all my searching of self-service, I found it is packed with the following discussion. And if you take some time to research this topic yourself on self-service, I am sure you will find the term service to self versus service to others. Of course, this leads to many religious and philosophical discussions. Most follow a pathway of thinking around right and wrong, wicked and blessed, and much chatter on who benefits from the service. I see lots of judgment in these posts, and I feel that the issue of judgment is better left to you, on yourself. Unless what you do clearly is negatively impacting others, threatening, harassing, hurting, I guess I am a libertarian, and I judge labels as negative. Don't like being put in any box. Just because I may feel this way today does not mean I may not feel differently tomorrow. But I guess the social media judges would have a label for that too. Finally, this topic would not be complete without at least a mention of one of the top all-time books that I've read, Atlas Shrugged, which I believe is a very good book to help anyone find their way to service to self as not being selfish. At least it was for me. I believe that if you are truly take responsibility for one's state or condition, whatever that matter, financial or health, you can do more to improve your situation than almost anyone else in your life. It may take more time than you have patience for, but life is more about the journey than the destination. Why not focus on what is good in your life along the way than what still is not how you desire it? Remember, when your lot in life looks too good, too fast, you may be on the wrong path before you even realize it. And together, we may be able to help each other more than we realize. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you got some value from this. I hope you'll visit my website at ywnhmedia.com, our health coaching site at yourwellnessandhealth.com, and soon to be launched our podcast site at theChoiceFM. Have a great day. The music we use at The Choice FM comes from zinmusiclibrary.com. We're recording this podcast today at the beautiful Carolina coast. All rights reserved. ywnhmedia.com.